we're still stuck in doing rhyme, but I personally, I can do either one. I can do the rhyme or I can do the freestyle. I love the freestyle because you can express a story in poetry style and you can have your own vibe. And for those of us who've gone to open mics, we've seen a lot of vibe where you can almost dance to the rhythm that somebody is speaking. Like, you know, it can be magical. It's like a magical interaction. But that's so you have to decide what kind of poems are you going to write. Essays, it can be self-help, or now in my older years, I'm starting to write very controversial pieces. And the writing that I put into Chicken Soup, it's not as controversial as some of the things that I've started to write, but it's getting into there because it's talking about struggles that I've encountered as a woman of color here in America. You know, being in the Caribbean in St. Croix, where the majority of people were people of color, and then coming to an area where that's not the case, you know, I had to learn a few things, learn to maneuver, you know, around. So a lot of that is coming out in my writing, and those writings might be more in my own conversational voice, or like it might end up being someone who's like preaching on the corner kind of voice, because, you know, it's a message. So again, I have to discover how those essays are going to sound. And then you have novels. I remember Todd asking me, you know, how did you do this? And I really don't know, except I love movies. And when I get ready to write a novel, and the fact that I am a pantser, I see my stories as a movie in my head. And so basically, I'm writing out the movie. And there's a lot of rules behind, you know, the first third of the book should be this, the second third of the book should be this, the third, you know, I don't have any of those rules. My rules are based on, it ends up following it more or less, but it's based on how the movies that I love. And usually you have the ramp up at the beginning, you have like the climax in the middle, and then you have a really climactic where somebody is almost dying at the end and then they come through. That is how my stories go, but I see it all in my head as a motion picture. But it has to be able to hold a reader's attention for the long haul. So you don't want to have too much being in somebody's head. There are some writers who will, the whole book, their whole story is how somebody feels about somebody else. And when you're reading that, it's really hard to stay engaged because you get tired of being in somebody's head for so long. You want to see action. You want to make it move. What are they doing as they're thinking about somebody? Or what are they doing as they're speaking to somebody? You can have overarching plot. So something that's a thread throughout your entire novel, but then you have, each person has their story. And we've watched, you know, for those of us who watch TV shows, series, from show to show, you know, like Law and Order, the basic thing is each show you have subplots where whoever it is that's the new criminal that they're taking to court. But the characters who come back week after week, they have a thread story going through. They may have a relationship relationship issues they're dealing with, or a past that they're dealing with. And that's the thread that keeps like the whole Law and Order series together, while each Law and Order show is dealing with a specific criminal activity. So that's, for a novel, you can do the same thing. The whole novel can be one thread, but then you're dealing with each individual subplot stories in that novel and bring them together. All right, let's go back to questions. Was that 12? Okay, that was 1,200 words for Chicken Soup. 1,200 words. Specifically between nonfiction submissions only. Yeah, so that's it. For the other competition that I talked about earlier today with Cat and Mouse's Beach Secrets, that's 3,500 words is the limit for that. So, but you know, minimum of 500 words. So you could have like a page of writing and you can submit that, or to 3,500. All right, setting goals. And I have another link here that, I wanted to share with you. They're called, there's something called SMART goals. And for people who are in professional offices, like we know about this, but those words stand for, each of those letters in that word stands for something. So you have to make specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-based goals. And you may ask, well, what does this have to do with me writing a story? When you have so many ideas that come out of your head that you don't know what to do with, you don't know where to start, or when you're trying to get organized, being able to set SMART goals helps you set yourself on a path for success with your writing. Without it, I have heard people say, oh, I have something that I started, but it's in my closet. Or I started 10 books, but I never finished any of them. Or I meant to publish, this year, something came up and I don't really know when it's going to happen. When you make a SMART goal, even when things come up, like 2020, right? I started 2020 going, I want to release 3 books this year. And then COVID came along and changed everything. And you know what I did? I still published 3 books last year because I had on my calendar, and I mean every week, like I put down what I wanted to accomplish on a weekly basis. And so even when something shut me in my house, that did not interrupt my schedule. And I made it in the time, like I had 3 stories that I was working on, and I allotted like an hour a week. So even when other things came up, 3 hours for writing wasn't going to kill me out of an entire week. We're talking 7 days. I still did my day job. They moved me at home, so I still did that. Still made time to hang out with my family. Now I was seeing my family a lot more than before. Keeping in touch with friends and relatives and parents, to make sure things were okay. But I was still able to do those 3 weeks. Now, even in the midst of summer, when I found out that a niece of mine got cancer, I couldn't write for 2 weeks or do anything for 2 weeks because emotionally I was done. I was praying for her. I was concerned about her. So those 2 weeks, but even though those 2 weeks I didn't do anything, it didn't kill the overarching schedule because I kept on track, and it was almost like 2 weeks vacation, from my mind from that. And then when I knew that my niece was fine, I was able to go back and still do what I needed to do. So yeah, life does pop up, but if you have a plan, you can get right back on there. And even if you needed to arrange, like give yourself a little bit more time, you can do that. It's your schedule. Unless you're writing for a traditional publisher where they have you on a deadline, you can you can make a new deadline for yourself. So what's most important to you? You need to prioritize. For me, my family's most important. Even though I love to write, my family's most important, which is why when my niece, was fighting cancer for those 2 weeks, I was on the phone with my sister supporting her. They were my priority. Remember to practice self-care. This is one of those things that go out the window. For a lot of people, we just keep going. We're like the Energizer Bunny, and then we fall flat on our faces and we wonder, how did that happen? Because we didn't take care of ourselves. So that needs to be the highest priority. And it means taking time out if you, to take time to read. If you like to read, take time to paint if you paint. Take time to just hang out and chat with a friend on the phone. Go for a walk. Go to the masseuse. Do something for yourself, like on a regular rhythmic, because if you don't take care of your body, which is where the source of your creativity is coming from, the creativity is not going to happen. So that's very, very important for me. That's something I've discovered. write your goals down. And that's what I was talking about earlier. Like, that's what I do. You have to create a timeline. You can make it word count per week or hours per week. I personally do the hours because the time, oh, is that somebody? I personally create or base it on hours because I only have a certain amount of time that I can spend. And whatever my word count is, I am happy with that. My goal is to make progress. And it doesn't have to be 1,000 words a day. It can be, 2. But if at least the 2 made a sentence better than it was yesterday, I'm good with the 2 words. You have to think about what's feasible this year. Writing 5 novels for me with a full-time 40-hour-a-week job is not feasible. The only reason why I was able to pull off 3 releases last year was those were books that were already done. They were already with traditional publishers, but those traditional publishers closed. So all I needed was to hire an editor, fix it up, and then get it out the door. So it wasn't like I was starting from scratch. It was already ready to go there. Include submissions in your plans. Enter contests. I've found that I have grown a lot as a writer, entering contests, whether they accept it or not. I have grown as a writer. And like I told folks last year, with all of the rejections I've had for my short stories, I've decided to write an anthology with those short stories so that they'll still get out to the world. Yep, I am, because I love them. I love those stories. And so right now I'm working with some girlfriends who they're screenplay and writers as well. They are helping to critique those stories that I'm putting in that anthology. So yeah, I don't give up on my work. Like I said, if it lasted in my head for a while, I'm gonna fight to get them out. So let's go back to questions. Thread story versus where you gave Law and Order as an example. So the main story, the main plot line versus the subplots. That's what I was comparing it to. So in when I use Law and Order, the series of Law and Order has characters that come back every show, and they have their own thread in the storyline. Each episode is your subplot, because that's when you would have like a criminal come in that, they may or may not show up again later, but, somebody comes in, a cop, is introduced, they may or may not come back later. But for that episode, you have a subplot in the lives of the main characters of the story. So that's what I was talking about there. Amazing formula. That's good stuff. I needed that. I would like to know how to do that. Any recommendations? So was that in relation to the thread versus, I don't know exactly what that was, that question.
That's it's for the submissions. Like, what do you recommend any particular way to to submit?
Okay. So there are many competitions out there. I tend to, well, you have to look and see what the rules are. So I don't enter every single competition because my writing may not match what that competition is asking for. So I have entered competitions with poetry, but they're sometimes on topics that I haven't even delved in. But if they're topics that I have delved in and I think, oh yeah, it could work, like, relationships or, hope for the future, or you had some disastrous, happenings in the past, I submit to them. You also have to watch, because some of them ask for money. They don't ask for a lot, but they need money to cover like the expense of even running the competition. And they're usually like $10 or something like that, or $20. Some of them come with, hey, we'll send you a year subscription of a book. So then your money results in something in addition to it. So you look at things like that. I'll give Cat and Mouse's, the Beach Secrets. Like I think the price for that is $10. But that, having gone through and actually have a story make it into that anthology, the things that I learned from the publisher while editing my story, invaluable. Like, it was just amazing, and it was worth more than the $10 I put in. I didn't win a prize. I did get, you know, the opportunity to have copies of the book, and I was able to sell those copies. But the learning that I had was invaluable. And she invites me to submit every year, whether I get it or not. And you can resubmit, like a story may span, you know, a vast amount of genres. But I would say, you know, go online. I can, like, I put one in the link, and I can, you know, help produce others for folks to look at, but look at them and figure out, hey, does that fit me? You know, is that something that I would want to do? And then, can I afford it? You don't want to put yourself into debt, you know, going into all kinds of submissions. I've even entered one where they said it was a chance to have your story put into motion picture. That's more expensive because now it's like upping the ante of the kind of people you're interacting with, media people. So that was like $60. So you know, again, I entered the one, and it'll be one at a time, but I have to make sure it fits in my budget for that year also. Love that idea, anthology of short. Yeah, yep. Other people on Facebook loved it too, and when I said that in my group. Speak about being rejected. Oh my gosh. So I am also a part of the South Jersey Writers Group, and that group celebrates everything, including rejections. Before I went to that group, I would do the boohoo. Like, oh my gosh, my writing's no good. I'm the worst writer in the world. You know, of course they didn't want me. It's trash. And some of you who've read my stories, it'd be like, Cassandra, why are you saying that? I loved your stuff. But that mentally, you know, every writer, you go through that. Like, you have insecurities about your writing. When I went to that group and they said, share your rejections with us. And then when people did, they actually clapped. And what they said was, congratulations for you in being rejected, because it meant you put yourself out there. You did not sit back and just sit on it. You put it out there, you submitted something, you took a chance, you took a risk. So this one didn't want it. And then they remind us of all the past authors who we now consider famous authors, amazing authors who are past and gone, who were rejected more times than they care to remember. And yet today we value their work. And when you think about that, you're like, all right, if someone so famous author could have been rejected 500 times by one publisher and then later on end up being a bestseller, and now even after their death, you have millions and billions of people continuing to read their work, I'll keep trying. And that's why, like, I decided, hey, well, if a certain publisher didn't want it, it doesn't mean it's trash. It just meant maybe they didn't want it in that time period. Either I try again later on, or I just publish it myself. Somebody out there will read it and like it. So don't be discouraged with rejections. Sometimes it's a matter of, I've even encountered rejections from publishers, small house traditional publishers, where the submission editor would tell me, and I actually asked them, because some of them will interact with you back. And I said, is there anything I can learn from this submission? What should I have improved? And there were twice I did that, where the editor sent back and they said, if you fix up, and they gave me a list, if you fix up these things, I'll look at it again and let you know if we'll accept your work. And both times I went back, worked on what they told me to work on, resubmitted it, and they accepted the work. So, you know, and like, not every traditional, you know, even small house does that, but I was new. And so I thought, I'm going to send an email back to this one and just ask them if they could tell me what was wrong so I could work on it. And it worked out in my favor. So you have to advocate for yourself, definitely. I will add that to my SMART goals. Okay, great. How do you find a publisher that takes stories with the subject matter that you have written? With Google. Oh, I got 12 minutes left. All right. With Google and other authors who have joined, you have to go to their sites and read up. They'll let you know. Like, these different organizations will let you know, what subject matter they take and which ones they won't. All right, I'm gonna go to my next slide. I'm nearing the end here. Use a calendar. So make daily goals, monthly goals, yearly goals. I use OneNote because it's electronic. It's made by Microsoft. It's part of the Office suite. I use that to keep tabs of what my short-term and long-term goals are. You could use anything. You could use, sticky notes, piece of paper, however best, you work. But definitely put it down, write it down somewhere so that you can be accountable to it. Life happens, so don't sweat it. Like I said, in the middle of me trying to it was right before, actually a month before I was supposed to release If It Kills Me, which was my second release of the year, when I found out the news about my niece. And, I gave myself the time to be there for my family. I didn't panic. If I needed to switch the date, I would have switched the date. It turns out I didn't. I just pushed other things aside and prioritized that so that the release happened on schedule. But if it doesn't, don't freak out. Like I said, when you're your own publisher, you can slip the date and just re-advertise that new date. Process is golden. Like I said, if I just, changed 2 words and made a sentence better, I am going to pat myself on the back for the 2 words, because I'm a busy woman with 2 boys, who, when I started writing, they were little kids, toddlers, and growing up. And so if I wrote 15 words in a day, I was happy with 2 little kids. Celebrate the small things. So we have a thing in my house where whenever someone finishes something, accomplishes something, I pull out a sparkly drink. And I've done this ever since my kids were little and we homeschooled them. So if they finished a book, we celebrated the finishing of the book. And I would bring out the sparkling cider. We would, knock our cups together and we would enjoy the finishing. And every school year, when a school year got done, we celebrated the completion of another school year. And we celebrated. Now that they're older, and they can interact with me. When I got into chicken soup, I was like, oh, we're celebrating this. They're like, Mom, what we celebrating? I said, we're celebrating that chicken soup accepted one of my stories. And so we clinked our glasses together and celebrated the fact that I got in. So I love celebrating the small things. Life is too short and there's so much bad news around us. I want to make the little, even though they're tiny accomplishments, shine brighter. And so my kids, they now have been through many, many years. I probably should have bought stock in all the sparkling drinks that I've bought over the years. And keep track of your accomplishments. I actually wrote them down by year so I can go back. So when I go through a discouraging spell, I go back and I look and to all the things that I accomplished. And it may be, a publisher accepted a story that I had tried 3 other times and 3 other publishers said no to, but somebody finally wanted it. Or, I fought through an editing, sticking point and got a story out of it. Danny Ross that I published, I hired a guy to edit it for me. I thought it was decent. He came back and told me, you have too much passive language in this story. So you better believe when Danny Ross got done, I was celebrating it. I also celebrated when I had my book trailer. When my book trailer got finished, the guy helped me to do it. I celebrated the fact that my book trailer was out. I celebrate everything and I track all of that. Website, blog creation and upkeep. This is part of the items on my schedule because I haven't hired anybody to do my website. So it has to be on my list of things, like how much time I'm going to spend. And I usually try to spend like a couple hours a month doing that kind of work, of stories that I need to complete that I'd like to complete during the year. Planned book releases, competitions, writing events, interviews, and anything else that pops up, in my writing arena. So, talk about the book trailer process. How much time do I have left, Patricia?
I want it to be done by 11:30, so 7 minutes.
7 minutes.
We want to
Okay.
leave time for the people to share what they've written on Why I Publish.
Okay, that's
yeah.
fine.
Okay.
And people have been asking questions throughout. So I
I
definitely
love the way you're doing that, by the way. That's excellent. Thank you.
Sure. All right. So the book trailer process. It is great to have connections with all kinds of people. That's one thing, the networking in the writing community. So I told you about that smaller writing group that I'm in, and it's 3 other women and me, and they knew each other growing up. They went to college together and everything. And the young woman who started the writers group, she and I went to church together. She and I volunteered to help her with the youth ministry. And so that's how I got connected with her. So when she started this writers group, she asked me to join because she figured we'd all work well together. And we have been. And so we read and critique each other's work. I critique screenplays. So I'm learning how a screenplay is supposed to be written by critiquing screenplay. It's great. It's been a lot of fun. The young woman whose friend I am from the youth group ministry, her boyfriend just started learning how to do like little video trailer things. So she's a screenplay, and she's also a director, and she directed Zoom plays with everything going online. She directed plays on Zoom, and her boyfriend wrote trailers to advertise on Facebook. Hey, this play is coming on, please buy the tickets. So he's new to this. And I was gonna go ahead and do a book trailer just with like a slideshow, which is what usually authors do. But she's like, no, talk to my boyfriend and, he'll do one for you. So I did, I had her talk to him. I said, I'm not going to your boyfriend, and give him work. Like, I haven't never met him. Like it's been COVID. It's like, it's hard to meet people. So I said, well, since I have never met him in person, could you tell him you want him to do this thing for me? So he was happy to do it. And we had meetings, Zoom meetings, him and I. He's in Florida, so we had Zoom meetings, and I gave him my ideas. I showed him pictures, and he put together a video, and it was amazing. And I'm going to see, this is pretty much done. So I'm gonna see if I can end this and go to, so I can show you what it is. Hopefully I can share like everything, the sound too. So let's see. It is on YouTube. Actually, you know what? I'll play it from my website. There we go. All right. So I'll play it right after I finish talking. So anyway, he went through and did the movie, and I sent him back with some notes, and he came back with the finished product. He had his girlfriend look at it. She gave him input. And then we had the trailer done, and in time, like at 2 days before the release. So I think it's part networking, and he is open for business. If anybody likes what they see and they want him to do something, he is open for business. But you just gotta keep your eyes and ears open for people and talents. And like I said, this guy was just learning this stuff. So for him, he was discovering what his talents were. And what did I have to lose? I was gonna do a slideshow. So let me show you. I don't know if I have to do something special. Do you know if I have to do something special for you to hear the sound?
Yeah, when you first started sharing there was an option at the bottom left that said share sound. I don't know if it's still there now. You may have to stop the share and then start
Okay,
the
let me
share
stop the
again.
share.
And you have
and-
one last question from Lisa while you're doing that.
Okay, share computer sound. There it is.
Yeah.
Optimize screen shares for video clip. Okay, and where did all the information go? Let's bring this back. Bring back my chat. And I can't see all your faces anymore. Oh my goodness. Okay, in your 9 to 5 writing, is your 9 to 5 writing? If not, how do you juggle 2 different careers? Yeah, my 9 to 5 is not writing. And how do I juggle it? Well, during the 9 to 5, I have to focus on the writing. I mean, doing my job. I have to be 100% in. And when I'm done with the work, you know, and I have my dinner and everything, I then say, all right, I'm going to take like an hour or 2 to focus on the writing bit. So I compartmentalize basically, and that's why I live by a schedule. So after work, I spend an hour on it. That's the hour that I focus on writing. And if there's bills to pay or whatever, then I go ahead and write those. So let me play this because I can't see anybody anymore. I don't know what happened with my sharing, but let me go ahead and play this for you.
So when you look, you're right. So when you look, you're right. So when you look, you're right.
Elwick pushed me to my limits, but I never backed down from the challenge. Trudging through the muck, jumping out planes, and freezing in the surf, forged a unique bond with my SEAL brothers. When told to board a landing craft on a secret mission, I didn't hesitate. But what kind of mission required 40 SEALs? We performed with excellence and stayed alert for unseen dangers. Unfortunately, we missed one. The explosion that followed stole my eyes and left me in a coma for 6 months. I can never go back to the life I had. After many surgeries, I'm part machine. Now they call me Danny Ross.
Cassandra, would you share a little, would you share the blurb on the back of the book about what the book is about and answer the very last question, which is Victoria, who just put something in the chat.
Okay. Let me stop sharing because I couldn't figure out how to bring your pictures back. All right, I can see everybody again. So let me grab my book here. All right, so a blast during a covert operation destroyed a Navy SEAL's eyes and killed his best friend. He woke up 6 months later in darkness, his eyes wrapped. His only contact with the world, a soft voice. When the wraps were removed, the world took on a different hue. His ruined eyes had been replaced with mechanical eyes. His new mission? Defend the defenseless on the home front with a young female prodigy scientist as his only lifeline during dangerous missions.
Okay, thanks. And then Victoria's question was the last one in the chat about book trip.
Oh, how long? I would say a minute and a half, 2 minutes. Like, you don't want the trailer to be too long. Everybody wants little nuggets, see it, move on. So you definitely want to capture their interest. And I think, how long did we make this one? This was a minute and 33 seconds. So you got, like, it was like punchline, you know, here's what it's about, and then you're done. And what you want to do with it, you want to grab people. Now, like I said, typically authors would do like a slideshow, and that's not bad, for this book, because it's a sci-fi adventure, having a motion video was appropriate because it is that kind of a book. But you can, they've had people with romance novels where they have pictures of people who depict who is going to be in their book, and they wrote little words next to the picture about, kind of like the summary, of what the book is going to be about. And that works. It's just, yeah, I definitely, for a sci-fi kind of book, having a motion trailer was definitely better than me doing my little slideshow. But I would say, yeah, no more than a minute and a half to 2 minutes long is what I would suggest.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Cassandra. By the way, how many books to date have you published?
So it's 10. It's 6 stories and 4 poetry books.
Yeah.
The other, there's 3 additional releases, but they were in other people's anthologies. So I had Zale's Tale that was in the Cat and Mouse. And then I had Battle at Kitty, which went on a Army online magazine. And then I had a poem that won a contest in my South Jersey writers group. And they put it on their online blog space. So those are like the 3 extra that I didn't publish myself, but I count them as releases since they, got put out there.
And what is your 9 to 5? Are you still editing and proofreading?
So my 9 to 5, I am a quality program manager. I used to be a software engineer, and so I'm very.
Well, that explains Danny Ross's eyes.
Very, and even if you read, go on my website and look at, and I'll put my website in the link. If you go there and you look at my Danny Ross page on there, I started out advertising him as if I was a reporter leaking information on this covert, operative. And I did that for like 2 years. And then last year was when I started zeroing in, but I made it like I was a reporter and that I kept getting found out and they would cut off the transmissions because they didn't want me to, and then right before the release, I said, all will be revealed, November 1st. And that was basically the release date of the book, when all the secrets would be out and now you can read about everything about Danny Ross. So
awesome. Oh, well, thank you so much. Let's unmute and just give her a clap, snap, whatever, shout out. That was an excellent presentation.
That was excellent. That was wonderful.
Yeah.
And I love the way because I was going to say wait till the end for questions, but I like how you pause and answer the questions in the chat box. It just went so smoothly. And what you presented was so good, so good.